Valeria Márquez was not just another name among millions of influencers trying to carve their place on social media. She was a rising star whose story reflected the dreams and struggles of a generation living their lives online. Born into a middle-class family, Valeria's early years were ordinary, yet her personality stood out. Even as a child, she carried a spark. Friends remembered her as someone full of energy, someone who loved being in front of the camera, and someone who could easily capture attention with her charm. Growing up, Valeria wasn't surrounded by luxury. Her family worked hard to make ends meet, and she knew from a young age that life required persistence. While many children around her were still searching for hobbies or trying to decide what they wanted to be, Valeria was already fascinated with creativity, fashion, beauty, and self-expression. She often experimented with clothes, makeup, and hairstyles, sometimes using simple, inexpensive products but always making them look glamorous. This ability to transform ordinary things into something special would later become one of her trademarks as an influencer. Her journey into social media started humbly. With nothing but a smartphone and an internet connection, she began uploading short videos, makeup tutorials, lifestyle tips, and little pieces of her everyday routine. At first, very few people noticed. Her early videos only had a handful of views, often from friends, family, and local acquaintances. But Valeria didn't give up. She believed in consistency, posting day after day, experimenting with new formats, and learning how to connect better with her audience. This persistence slowly began to pay off. What truly drew people to Valeria wasn't just her content, it was her personality. She wasn't afraid to be authentic. While many influencers carefully polished their image, Valeria let her audience see her real self. She laughed at her mistakes, admitted when she was having a bad day, and spoke openly about her ambitions as well as her insecurities. This honesty resonated with people. Fans felt like they knew her personally, like she wasn't a distant celebrity but a friend sharing her journey. Her natural charisma and relatability set her apart in a crowded digital space. As her follower count grew, so did the opportunities. Brands began to notice her influence, reaching out with offers for collaborations and sponsorships. She started earning money from the very thing she loved doing, creating content. But Valeria wasn't only focused on fame or financial gain. She used her platform to inspire others, especially young women. She often spoke about confidence, self-worth, and the importance of chasing one's dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. For many fans, she became more than just a fashion or beauty influencer, she became a role model. Despite her growing popularity, Valeria remained grounded. Friends and family described her as humble and hardworking, someone who never let fame change her essence. She continued to spend time with her loved ones, she cherished her community, and she never forgot the people who supported her from the beginning. At the same time, she also carried the burden that comes with internet fame, the pressure to always remain relevant, the criticism from strangers, and the lack of privacy in her personal life. Behind the smiles and perfect photos, Valeria often faced the silent struggles of being constantly in the public eye. Yet, she pushed forward. She believed that her voice mattered, that her story could inspire, and that her growing platform could be used for good. She had big dreams, dreams of expanding her career, possibly stepping into modeling, acting, or even launching her own brand one day. Every live stream she hosted, every post she made, every message she shared with her fans was a step toward those dreams. Valeria Márquez was living proof of how determination, passion, and authenticity could change a person's life. She wasn't born into wealth or fame, she built everything herself, brick by brick, with the support of her fans and her unwavering belief in herself. To her followers, she wasn't just a social media figure, she was a friend, an inspiration, and a symbol of hope in a world where many young people felt invisible. But what no one could have imagined was how quickly that rising star would fall. The vibrant life she had built, the future she dreamed of, and the connection she had with her audience would all come to a devastating halt. Her shocking murder, captured in real time during a live stream, would not only shatter her dreams but also leave millions questioning the dark side of internet fame, where visibility can sometimes bring danger. It was supposed to be just another ordinary night in Valeria Márquez's world, one of the many live streams she hosted to stay connected with her audience. For Valeria, live streaming wasn't just about entertaining fans, it was about creating a sense of intimacy. Unlike her polished posts and edited videos, live streams gave her followers a chance to see her unfiltered, in real time, exactly as she was. These moments often became the most cherished by her fans, who loved how approachable she seemed. On that night, Valeria appeared cheerful, as she often did. She smiled at the camera, read comments, laughed at jokes from viewers, and answered questions as her chat filled with excitement. For her audience, this was a rare chance to interact directly with someone they admired. The numbers on her screen kept climbing, more and more people joining, as if sensing something unforgettable was about to happen. But no one could have predicted just how unforgettable, and horrifying, this live stream would become. At first, everything seemed normal. Valeria spoke about her day, upcoming plans for her channel, and even teased some future collaborations. She radiated her usual warmth, giving off no sign of the darkness that was about to unfold. In fact, some viewers later recalled that she looked especially happy that evening, laughing more than usual, engaging with comments, and even thanking her fans for their constant support. But then, subtle changes began to creep into the atmosphere. Midway through the stream, Valeria's attention appeared to drift. Her eyes shifted away from the camera, as though something or someone had entered the room. Viewers noticed her smile fade slightly, and her once relaxed tone became uneasy. At first, fans assumed it was a technical issue, perhaps someone calling her name in the background. But as the seconds passed, the tension in the room grew. Messages in the chat began flooding in. Is everything okay? Who's there? Valeria, are you alright? And then, the unimaginable happened. Without warning, a figure entered the frame. The cheerful mood of the live stream was shattered in an instant. Viewers could only watch in horror as Valeria's expression shifted from surprise to sheer terror. What was supposed to be a night of connection turned into a real-life nightmare, unfolding live, in front of thousands. The exact details of those moments remain etched into the minds of everyone who witnessed them. Valeria's voice trembled as she attempted to speak, but her words were cut short. The figure moved closer, the energy in the room darkened, and panic spread across the chat. Thousands of fans typed frantically, begging her to end the stream, to get out, to call someone for help. Some tried to dial local emergency numbers, desperate to intervene, but by then it was already too late. What followed was brutal, raw, and devastating. In the span of minutes, Valeria's live stream transformed from a space of joy into a chilling broadcast of violence. Many viewers later described it as a scene they could never erase from their memory, the horrifying moment when the life of a young, vibrant woman was extinguished in real time before their eyes. Some fans broke down crying as they watched, others froze in shock, unable to process the reality of what they were seeing. The live stream, which had started with smiles and laughter, ended in silence. The screen went dark, but the echo of those moments spread across the internet like wildfire. Clips began circulating within hours, with people reposting and sharing the tragedy that had unfolded. For many, it felt surreal, as though it couldn't possibly have happened. But it did. And it left thousands of witnesses traumatized, asking the same haunting question: how could this happen, and why, of all places, on a live stream? In the days that followed, fans who had tuned in that night struggled to cope. Some spoke about the guilt of watching helplessly as the incident happened. Others admitted they still replayed the horrifying scene in their minds every night. The live stream that was meant to connect Valeria with her fans had become the most chilling evidence of her final moments alive. When news of Valeria Márquez's murder broke, the world immediately asked the question that haunts every crime: who could do this? How could anyone take the life of a young woman so full of promise, and do it in such a cruel, public way? The live stream itself provided the first chilling clues. Viewers had seen a shadowy figure enter her space. Authorities wasted no time in identifying that figure and beginning the hunt for the person responsible. Within hours, investigators began piecing together what had happened behind the camera. Neighbors were interviewed, security footage from nearby streets was collected, and Valeria's close circle of friends and acquaintances were questioned. It didn't take long before a suspect emerged, someone shockingly close to her, someone whose name had surfaced before in whispers, but no one ever imagined would be capable of something so horrifying. Reports suggested that the suspect was an ex-boyfriend, someone Valeria had once trusted, someone who had been a part of her life but had grown increasingly unstable after their relationship ended. Those who knew them spoke of arguments, jealousy, and an obsession that seemed to grow worse with time. Friends recalled Valeria expressing unease, admitting that she felt she was being watched or followed. Some even said she had considered taking legal action against him, but like so many victims, she may have underestimated the danger. The motive appeared painfully clear: control and possession. To the suspect, Valeria wasn't just an ex-girlfriend, she was a symbol of something he had lost, something he could not let go of. Her rising fame only seemed to fuel his obsession. Each new follower she gained, every live stream filled with fans, may have felt to him like a reminder of his absence in her life. In his mind, if he couldn't have her, no one could. But investigators also uncovered darker layers. Messages recovered from Valeria's phone and social media accounts suggested she had been receiving disturbing threats in the weeks leading up to the live stream. Some came from anonymous profiles, others from people suspected of being connected to the same individual. These messages, chilling in their tone, warned her that her public life had consequences, that she wasn't safe, and that she would pay for humiliating him. This painted a picture of a man consumed by rage, envy, and entitlement. While the live stream captured only the final act, the crime itself had been building for months, possibly years. The suspect's motive wasn't a single moment of anger, it was the culmination of obsession, resentment, and the inability to accept rejection. For many, this raised another troubling question: could Valeria's murder have been prevented? Did the signs go unnoticed? Could the system have done more to protect her from someone who clearly posed a threat? These questions only deepened the tragedy, as fans and family members realized how close she had been to danger all along. Police officials later confirmed that the suspect fled the scene immediately after the incident, sparking a nationwide manhunt. His name and image quickly circulated in the media, and the world learned the face behind the nightmare. To Valeria's fans, it was a shocking revelation, that the person responsible wasn't some faceless intruder, but someone she had once loved and trusted. The betrayal cut deep, adding another layer of pain to an already unbearable story. The motive, though horrifying, followed a chillingly familiar pattern. Time and again, crimes against women are fueled by toxic control, jealousy, and the inability to let go. Valeria's murder became another devastating example of how fame can magnify these dangers, drawing out those who cannot separate love from possession, admiration from obsession. As investigators closed in on the suspect, the world watched anxiously, waiting for justice. But no matter the motive, no matter the punishment that awaited him, nothing could undo what had been done. Nothing could bring Valeria back. When the live stream ended and the horrifying news of Valeria Márquez's murder spread across social media, authorities were thrown into a race against time. Every second mattered. Thousands of people had witnessed the crime unfold in real time, and that digital footprint became both a curse and a critical tool for investigators. Unlike many murder cases, this one had been recorded, streamed, and even saved by viewers. What was usually the hardest part of any investigation, reconstructing the crime scene, had, tragically, unfolded before an audience of thousands. From the very beginning, detectives knew they had an unusual advantage: the live stream itself. They immediately secured copies of the broadcast, freezing the chilling moments frame by frame. Each detail, the background noises, the figure's body language, Valeria's reactions, was carefully studied. Viewers' comments, often overlooked as chatter, suddenly became evidence. Some fans had noticed things others missed, a shadow moving, a door creaking, even Valeria's whispered words that hinted at fear before the attack. All of this became part of the case file. Outside the digital evidence, the physical investigation was just as intense. Forensic teams swarmed Valeria's home, combing through every corner for clues. Fingerprints, footprints, and traces of DNA were collected. The position of the furniture, the location of her phone, and even the angle of the live stream camera were documented in meticulous detail. Investigators were determined to reconstruct not only what happened in those final minutes, but also what led up to them. Neighbors were questioned, and several reported hearing raised voices and unusual noises around the time of the murder. Some even admitted they had seen a man loitering near Valeria's residence in the days before the attack. This information added weight to the growing theory that the suspect had been stalking her, waiting for the right moment to strike. Technology became one of the strongest weapons in the investigation. Surveillance cameras from nearby streets were pulled, showing a man matching the suspect's description entering the area shortly before the murder and fleeing afterward. GPS data from phones, social media check-ins, and even rideshare records helped map the suspect's movements with chilling precision. But perhaps the most damning evidence came from Valeria herself. In the weeks before her death, she had confided in friends and hinted to her fans that she had been receiving disturbing messages. Investigators found these messages on her phone and social media accounts, threats, harassment, and angry outbursts, many traced back to the same individual now suspected of the crime. Together with the live stream footage, these digital trails painted a terrifyingly clear picture. This murder was not spontaneous. It was planned. As the case developed, the live stream also became a key piece of public evidence. Thousands of viewers had downloaded or screen-recorded the broadcast, and clips began circulating online. While authorities pleaded with the public to stop sharing the footage out of respect for Valeria's family, they couldn't deny its importance. What millions had seen in shock was now being used in courtrooms and investigation rooms as undeniable proof. The investigation also revealed just how fragile the line between fame and danger can be. Valeria had built her life around connecting with her fans, letting them into her world, but that openness had also exposed her to threats she couldn't always control. The police emphasized that this was not just a crime of passion, it was the culmination of months of obsession, harassment, and a failure to recognize just how dangerous the suspect had become. Within days, an arrest warrant was issued, and a manhunt was launched. Police tracked the suspect across multiple cities, using phone pings and surveillance cameras. Every move was monitored, every possible hiding spot checked. The pressure was immense, not only because a killer was on the loose, but because the entire world was watching, demanding justice for the young woman whose murder they had unwillingly witnessed. The evidence against the suspect grew overwhelming. The live stream, the threatening messages, the security footage, the forensic results, all pointed to one man. And while he may have thought he could silence Valeria, the truth was that her final moments had spoken louder than anything he could hide. The very platform where she built her career had also ensured that her killer could not escape the eyes of justice. The murder of Valeria Márquez didn't just stay within the walls of her home or within the footage of that haunting live stream, it spilled across the world, igniting shock, grief, and outrage on a massive scale. Almost instantly, hashtags bearing her name began trending on social media platforms. Fans who had tuned into the live stream shared their disbelief, recounting the terrifying moment when a cheerful night turned into tragedy before their eyes. Within hours, Valeria's story had become international news. For her fans, the reaction was deeply personal. Many had followed her for years, watched her grow from a small creator into a widely recognized influencer. To them, she wasn't just a distant personality on a screen, she felt like a friend, a sister, someone they had grown up with. The live stream's abrupt and horrifying end left thousands traumatized. Some admitted they couldn't sleep for days, haunted by the images of what they had seen. Others expressed guilt, feeling powerless that they couldn't do anything to save her in that moment. Entire online communities dedicated to Valeria turned into digital memorials, with fans posting heartfelt tributes, photos, and stories of how she had inspired them. The media coverage was relentless. News outlets across the globe picked up the story, describing it as one of the most shocking crimes ever broadcasted live. Headlines screamed words like, "Influencer killed on Livestream," "The murder millions witnessed," and "A crime in real time." Television debates questioned whether social media had become too dangerous, whether platforms bore responsibility for not intervening quickly enough, and what protections influencers truly had against harassment and stalking. But beyond the sensationalism, there was also an outpouring of empathy. Vigils were held in Valeria's hometown, with candles, flowers, and photos laid out in her memory. Fans who had never met her in person traveled miles just to stand alongside others who felt the same pain. Influencers, celebrities, and fellow creators across platforms paused their regular content to post tributes. Some uploaded black and white photos of Valeria, others shared clips of her happiest live streams, reminding the world of her laughter, her optimism, and her authenticity. Her family, meanwhile, was thrust into a media storm they had never asked for. Cameras surrounded their home, reporters demanded interviews, and news vans lined the streets. While grieving their unimaginable loss, they also had to face the world spotlight. In a heartfelt statement, her parents described Valeria as a light taken too soon and urged people to remember her not for the horrific way she died, but for the vibrant way she lived. Their words resonated across platforms, echoed by fans who tried to shift the focus back to celebrating Valeria's life instead of fixating on her final moments. At the same time, the tragedy sparked heated conversations about online safety and the darker side of influencer culture. Experts spoke on talk shows about the growing risks that come with fame, how being constantly visible invites not only admiration but also envy, obsession, and danger. Some argued that platforms should invest more heavily in security tools, offering better ways to report harassment or identify stalkers before things escalate. Others pointed out the emotional toll on fans who have been forced to witness violence in real time, comparing it to mass trauma spread digitally. The story also caught the attention of lawmakers in several countries. Debates began about whether stricter cyberstalking laws or influencer protection programs were needed. Valeria's name became a rallying cry, symbolizing not only the vulnerability of content creators but also the urgent need to address violence against women. Activist groups seized the moment to highlight broader issues, domestic abuse, toxic control in relationships, and how fame can sometimes magnify existing dangers rather than shield from them. Through it all, Valeria's legacy grew larger than anyone expected. She was no longer just a social media influencer, she had become a symbol of a much bigger conversation. Every tribute, every news article, every trending hashtag carried a dual message: grief for what was lost, and anger at how preventable it might have been. The media attention also ensured that her case would not be forgotten. Unlike so many crimes that fade from public memory, Valeria's murder remained in headlines for weeks, fueled not only by the shocking nature of the live stream but also by the love her fans continued to pour into keeping her memory alive. Even as the suspect was hunted down, the public demanded justice, reminding authorities that they were not just solving a crime, they were answering to millions of broken hearts around the world. The murder of Valeria Márquez was not just the end of one young woman's life, it became a turning point, a haunting reminder of how fragile the line is between fame and vulnerability in the digital age. Her death echoed far beyond her family, far beyond her fans, and even far beyond her country. It sparked a conversation that continues to this day about safety, about obsession, and about the hidden dangers that lurk behind the screens we stare at every day. Valeria had once been seen as a symbol of possibility. She was proof that anyone, regardless of background, could rise from humble beginnings to build a life of influence through creativity, determination, and authenticity. But in death, she became a different kind of symbol, a cautionary tale about the dangers that come with visibility, and the urgent need to protect those who share their lives so openly with the world. Her story forced people to ask difficult questions. How safe are influencers, really? How prepared are social media platforms to protect their creators from harassment, stalking, and threats? And most importantly, how often do warning signs go ignored until it's too late? For many, the tragedy of Valeria Márquez was not only in the brutal way she was taken from the world but also in how preventable it may have been. The evidence of danger was there: threatening messages, stalking behaviors, a toxic ex consumed by obsession. Yet like so many victims of gender-based violence, her cries for help were drowned out until it was too late. Her legacy, however, is not one of silence. Across the globe, her death ignited movements that demanded change. Advocacy groups used her name to campaign for stronger cyberstalking laws, better protection for women in abusive relationships, and more accountability for social media platforms. Some countries even began drafting policies specifically aimed at protecting online creators, using Valeria's case as a tragic example of what happens when the digital world becomes a weapon in the hands of the obsessed. For her fans, Valeria's impact lived on in more personal ways. Many spoke of how she had inspired them to be confident, to pursue their passions, and to believe in themselves. Even in her absence, they clung to her videos, replaying old clips not just to mourn, but to remember the light she once brought into their lives. Online, entire pages were dedicated to her memory, filled with quotes from her live streams, photos of her radiant smile, and messages of encouragement that she had once given. In a way, she continued to influence, teaching her fans not only how to style themselves or live boldly but also how to recognize the importance of protecting one another. Valeria's family carried her legacy forward as well. Despite their grief, they chose to speak out, reminding the world that their daughter was not defined by the way she died but by the joy and inspiration she brought in life. They worked with organizations to raise awareness about online harassment and toxic relationships, determined to ensure that her story would not fade into just another headline. Her murder also left a lasting mark on the influencer community. Many creators began speaking more openly about the threats they faced behind the scenes, the stalking, the unwanted attention, the constant fear that fame might one day attract the wrong person. Some even took breaks from social media to protect their mental health, citing Valeria's story as the reason they could no longer ignore the risks. Her death served as a wake-up call, that behind the polished photos and viral videos, influencers are human beings, vulnerable, fragile, and deserving of safety. Years from now, people may not remember every detail of her story, but they will remember the name Valeria Márquez. They will remember the influencer whose light was stolen too soon, the young woman whose murder forced the world to confront the darker side of online fame. And they will remember how, even in her tragic death, she changed the way we think about safety in the digital age. Valeria's impact is not just in the millions who mourned her, nor in the laws that may change because of her story. Her legacy lies in the reminder that every person behind a screen is real, that their lives matter, and that no amount of fame should ever come at the cost of safety. Though her voice was silenced on that live stream, her story continues to speak louder than ever, warning, inspiring, and reminding the world of both the beauty and the dangers of living life online.